Hey everyone, this monstrosity that you're seeing right here is not my latest biggest tier list, although you'd be forgiven for thinking so. This right here is the result of drafting every single Fire Emblem game possible. I sat down with 3 people in several hour-long calls, yes, several hour-long calls to draft every single character from every single Fire Emblem game. And today I'm going to discuss what the results of that were, how fun it was, and we're going to talk about a little series that I'm hopefully going to be doing. Now this was not a competitive draft at all. You have drafts for like draft races, drafting for LTCs, but this was a casual draft. You know, we're just going to play all the games before Engage comes out. So this draft was held about 10 months ago. A friend of mine and Patreon of mine, P. Vladios, dragged me into it. He's like, hey Mecha, do you want to join? We're going to play all the Fire Emblem games and we're going to draft them all. So that's what we did, and this is the result. And today I'm going to go over all the teams that we drafted, not entirely, but you know, roughly on a game-by-game basis. And I'll discuss my quote-unquote strategy going into it, as well as the strategy of my fellow drafters. And roughly how it felt like to play all the games over again. So let's get into it. For those of you that do not know, drafting means that you take turn picking units. In our case, we pick 3 units at a time, and you go through a certain order. First person picks 3 characters in this game. The next person picks 3 characters until you're at the bottom. Then when you're at the bottom, the person at the bottom picks 6, and it goes back up in the snake order, like a little zigzag. Once a character's been picked, they cannot be picked again, so you have to be very sure that you're going to pick characters that you're attached to, characters that you really want to have. But of course, when there's so many characters available, you're always going to get something that you like. Some characters do not need to be picked because they're free. We wanted to make sure that everyone could complete the game. Again, this was a very casual thing, no, you know, making sure you're the fastest or anything. So what we did is we made Jagans free, we've made all the lords free, thieves are generally free, Goto characters usually get a free pass, dancers get a free pass, so those you don't have to worry about, they're going to be in everyone's pool. All the other characters though, they have to be picked from every single game. Characters that appear in multiple games, such as, you know, Tellius characters like FE9, FE10 Ike, or characters that are in Arcanea, like FE1, FE3, FE11, FE12, those are drafted separately. Although, if you draft a character from Fates, you get them in all versions of Fates. If you draft them in FE3, you can have them in both books, and any other exceptions like that, I'll explain as we go along. So, how'd it go? Let me introduce you to my my fellow drafters. I already mentioned Peeved, so as my goal, so might as well mention him first. You know, Peeved, I think, just picked characters that he liked / wanted to use. I don't remember any specific strategy, except for the part where he picked all the Sidas. He picked a couple of Ests. He picked both Jills. He picked, well, he found one Pala at least. He picked all the Lindays as well. That was a fun little flavorful thing to do, is just find every single version of every character that you can. So he did that. Modi, I don't think had any specific strategy going in. I think he just picked characters that he felt like using, characters that he hadn't used a whole lot before. Of course, you're going to end up picking some characters that I've always been using. But, for example, like I don't think he ever not used Rutger, or rather, I think he has some experience using Rutger, for example. So that was pretty normal. The best strategy was Kuni's. He had first pick, and his first picks were OJ, Salem, and Elrond. I'm pretty sure it's because he just picked the characters he thought were hot. Pretty much every character I think he picked, he just thought they were attractive in some way, or he just kind of liked them. Sure, you could argue that someone like OJ or Elrond or George is going to be available later on, but who cares? Just pick characters that you like, right? So those were the off picks, you could say, the unorthodox picks, but they worked out because the game is still fun for him. I think they're all in different stages of completion. Modi actually just finished, like, I want to say yesterday or the day before as I'm recording this. Peeved finished before Engage came out, actually, which was very impressive. He really raced through this one. I'm still playing, but I'm almost done. I finished every game except for Echoes I still have to play. I'm almost done with Radiant Dawn. I took a break from it because this was also when I did my Iron Man, and I was still doing my my Radiant Dawn Let's Play. So I took a little bit of a break from it at FE10. And Kuni is still playing. They take a bit of a slower time, but again, it's very casual, so who cares? And there's also a friend of Peeved's, Silith. She played with Peeved's teams, and she also finished. She actually finished before any of us did. They didn't draft at all, they just played. So that's the progress so far. And I want to use this video series to update you on my progress. Like I said, I'm almost done. I have like 3 games left. But I took some screenshots along the way as I was playing. And my plan for for the following videos is to go over those screenshots, because they're basically pictures that you take on a trip or a vacation that you think were worth showing to people. So think of it as me going on a vacation from recording content by playing Fire Emblem and showing you screenshots that I think have a funny story attached to them. Every single game that I played had some kind of fun story attached to it. So that's going to be a plan for the next couple. I'll probably release these on Sundays, generally speaking. Let me go over my team real quick. Now, I could like go over my team in depth here, but I think it's more logical at this point to switch to an all-game perspective. You can have a quick glance at my team and see some of the bangers in here. The general theme, the most important thing to notice about my team is I tried to pick all the Manakets, all the dragons. So I picked a bunch of Tikis, Nagis, Naui, Fa was free, I believe, but I forgot. I might be wrong on that. I picked Myrrh. I just like picking Manakets. I thought they were funny. So there we go. So with that said, let's go over the draft by game, because this monstrosity of a tier list maker was not the only thing we used to reference, which everyone had for every game. Fortunately, Peeved compiled all these during the draft and kept track of it and everything. It's super helpful. So we'll just start at the beginning. Start with FE1. I didn't play FE1. Confession. This is the only game I said from the start that I said I would not play. And this is nothing new, nothing outstanding or anything. There were multiple games that multiple people refused to play. Peeved and Modi were man enough to play all the games. Silith played every game too. But I said, no, I'm not playing FE1. So I picked a couple Manakets, a couple Dragon people, and kind of left it at that. I never want to play FE1 again. Kuni did play FE1 though. They picked all the Axe Brothers, which I thought was pretty funny. Everyone else's teams are pretty standard. They're going to be a little bit stacked compared to other games because I wasn't really in the pool for picking good FE1 units. And then when Kuni doesn't pick, let's just say, like, doesn't pick from best to worst, you know, you're going to get some really good units. Like I said, Peeved got all the versions of Linde. It's pretty strong. Honestly, both Peeved and Modi's teams are pretty strong here, with Modi having Lena and Minerva, and Peeved having Linde and Merrick and Kane and Harden. But as you can see, everyone picked plenty of meme units as well. That's FE1. FE1 is boring. I didn't play it. FE2, I picked a pretty small team for this one. I'm pretty sure this is Cliff. I'm pretty sure I picked Cliff, but I can never tell the villages apart in Gaiden. Cliff carried Elm side, and then Saber carried Celica side. Basically, I just wanted to pick a low number of people because one of the fun things about drafts is you know from the start how many units you have and which units you're going to train. Normally, when you play Fire Emblem, it's often you're kind of feeling for what you're going to use. You're seeing, okay, who's going to get some good level ups? Who do I feel like using today? You kind of try to train everyone a little bit until you see who you actually feel like using long term. But in draft, you cannot use any units you didn't draft long term. Of course, in a casual draft like this, you're allowed to have a character see combat if there's no other way out. Think of like Tiltu and Bridget in FE4 Gen 1. You can't really reasonably do that section of the chapter without them either dying or killing some enemies. So we were very lax with those rules. You're allowed to use other characters if you have to get out of a bind. People like Ogma and Sirius in FE3 Book 2. Just use them, it's fine for a little bit, and then bench them. And if you really don't have enough characters, you know, field someone you didn't draft, it's fine. It's not a super competitive draft. Not at all. I don't think I needed to for FE2 though. So yeah, I picked Cliff, Saber, Dean, Katria, Tatiana, Zeke, and Velbo. His name in the Old Sensation patch. He's now named Velbar. Very relaxed team, very fun. Cliff especially is an absolute banger. You're going to see a lot of screenshots that have Cliff murder people. And a lot few screenshots of the other units, honestly. It's so great when you're in a draft, you have very low number of people. You can load stat boosters into them, they get almost all the experience, and they can just solo entire chapters if you allow them to, which sometimes is very fun. Sometimes I want to play like tight gameplay, like use a whole team, get through the chapter meticulously, figure out the right strategies, but sometimes you just want to go burr. And this is definitely a game where you can just go burr, because Gaiden, not very difficult, and very rewarding for pouring all your resources into a small group of people, especially one group of people, one people. So yeah, there we go. As you can see, the healers, Silk and Jenny were free, in case you were wondering, because this game, they're just so valuable and so good. Next is FE3. We had to play both books, FE1 and FE2. FE3 book 1 and FE3 book 2. So if you drafted the character that's in both books, congrats, you get double value out of it. And I think all of us played both books at this point, or at least we plan to. FE3, I always like how colorful FE3 is as a palette. It's like almost all like primary or very bright colors. So you can see my team is Katria. I just like a massive book 2 carry. And then Kane is someone who's like really good in book 1. Same for Merrick. Bantu, he's a Manakite. Do I need to say any more? Well, I probably do. I actually use Bantu quite a lot in FE3 because he's at his best there. He's almost like a pre-promote. He's that strong as one to range. He pierces defenses. He's pretty nice. I didn't use him as much as I did in my first playthrough ever, but he was still really good for how little work you have to put into him. Tiki is a Manakite. Very fun in FE3. Have a lot of funny screenshots from that, I think. If not, you know, just know that she can turn into a flying Manakite in book 2. Ubello, very fun training project in FE3. He's actually not as bad as he is in FE12. Being a mage is so good in that game. Like, mage promotes the bishop. Bishops can use staves that, you know, what their weapon level allows them to do. So you don't have to like grind staff rank like in other games. You could just use warp or fortify or again with him, for example. And his magic is way better than Merrick's too. So I had 2 really good sages going around, or 2 good bishops, I should say. Lawrence and George is good pre-promotes. Maria is a staff bot, and Nina is kind of a joke pick, considering she's only like at the very end of book 2. And then, I mean, these 2 clowns, Lamau. But the real stars were by far Katria and Kane for both books, really. I would go into like the other drafters' teams more in depth, but honestly, they have their own stories to tell, and I wasn't there when they played for the most part. So I'm just going to go over my own stories here. FE4, I drafted way too many people for FE4 for how easy of a game it is, but, you know, it's here. I did play the games roughly in order until I started, you know, getting bored with, I think it was FE10 that bored me because I had to take a break from it. When I played in order, I was playing FE4. Quan, I don't know why I drafted him so early. He's not that good, especially when you have Sigurd, but it's kind of nice to have someone for prologue, I guess. Peeves had the solo prologue with Sigurd, for example, which was pretty miserable for him. So Quan, Aranis. When you pick a mom in FE4, you get their kids for free. So when I picked Aranis, I also got Set and Fee, which was probably the main reason I picked Aranis, because Aranis herself is like kind of whatever. But Fee and Set were so good, especially because I also drafted Lewin, so I just drafted like the whole 4-steady package, just so I could stomp the game for fun. Finn with a good old Brave Lance, Dew for some thievery. Linde, I have a very funny story about that one that I will definitely save for another episode. Oifi, Altena, like everything past this was pretty overkill, but I do like Altena and Oifi a lot. Claude and Kirpre. I probably did something with the Valkyrie staff at some point. And then Radney was the real wild card. I can't wait to tell the story of good old badass Badney. Great unit, even though she's a substitute. Trust me, bro. Alright, that's FE4. Thracia, Sarah was the very first character I drafted because I was like, there is no way I'm going to sit through Thracia without at least one A-rank staff user for a late game. And Sarah can double as a combat unit if you need to, but most importantly, you just want a good staff user. Generally, I drafted quite a few, I don't want to say high demand characters, but I wanted to make sure I had a lot of combat ready for Thracia, because Thracia endgame is very demanding combat-wise, and I didn't want to get stuck without the tools to beat it. So I drafted Fergus for combat, Dakdar for good combat, Karen for flying utility in the mid to late game, really. Shiva. Shiva is another good combat unit in the long term, especially when you have all those scrolls and stat boosters and other things to spare. He's just absolutely powerful. I killed Gomez with Shiva, to give you an idea. Galzus, another great endgame character that I wanted. Imelda, another really good endgame character that also has high staff rank. Well, high enough to use the important staves. C rank is enough. Olwen I wanted to use because I feel like I don't use Olwen enough for how fun she should be to use. I don't remember if I managed to get Vantage. I think I didn't get the Liffist up to speed in time, but Olwen was fun to use anyway. Like, bolting is always fun. And then we got Ralph and Helven. I mean, Ralph is a good endgame filler. Helven I think I kind of picked when I had little choice left, and I didn't really feel like using him. I felt like I had the combat I needed. He seems pretty superfluous. Then I used him and I really enjoyed it anyway, so that backfired. FE6, I was planning to kind of low man it. I was like, oh, I'll just try carrying with Deke, see how good Deke is at killing everything. And then it was like round something, like round 10 something, like 11, 12. And Alan was still there. I was like, well, whatever, I'll pick a Christmas Cav as well. Other than that, Thea, I wanted to give her another chance because I really don't like Thea, but I was like, oh, she seems kind of fun to try at least once. Sol for some good healing utility. Fa, do I need justification for a Manic Heat? Yu, I wanted to use the negative underflow magic glitch. I didn't manage to do it, but I did get him to super high magic anyway through cheats. Does that count? Probably not, but I did it anyway. Sophia, she's technically a Manic Heat, so I wanted her, and she became the star of the playthrough. Igren, just a fun filler. Yoder, very nice filler to have when you're going for a good ending, because he just negates all the high status stabs. Trek, he is Rek. He can rescue people. I don't think I even trained him. No, actually I did. He was pretty funny to use, actually. He was pretty funny. Just kind of forgettable because there's so many Cavaliers in the series. But I do remember, I think I trained Trek. You know, flyer filler. That kind of forced me to Ilya. And Douglas sure exists. He sure existed. FE7. I really want to low man FE7 because it's not a super high demanding game, but I did end up playing Hector hard mode, which made it a lot more slower, but also more challenging than expected. You can see, until I picked Urk, I had like no early game besides Florina. That's intentional. I wanted to pour resources into a small amount of units, and Florina managed to get like everything. Plus I think I played Lin mode, which allowed me to get a really good Florina. The thing about FE7 is you get a lot of free characters that can do work even long term. You get 3 lords, Marcus is very good, Matthew is okay I guess if you really need more early game combat, and then you have Athos for the late game as well, and we made Karla free too I guess. So what I'm basically saying is I didn't feel the need to draft a whole lot of FE7 characters, and even with this team I managed to complete Hector hard mode. I say even with this team as if I didn't draft Pent, Hawkeye, and Canas, and then also a good late game character in Vida. But pretty much everything I wanted to do in the early game went to Florina and Urk and the Lords. I'm pretty sure I also trained like all the Lords here. I don't think I managed to get to Linus for Flank Offense, but I'd have to double check with my screenshots. Again, the draft was 10 months ago, so not everything I say is probably accurate. FE8, again, I wanted to low man a little bit, but FE8's entire crew is low man. You only have like 20 characters to choose from, it feels like. So one of the first drafts I did is Myr, because FE8 late game has a couple of annoying bosses that I really wanted her to have for, so I didn't have to resort to any other shenanigans. So I picked Myr, and then I picked another early game Pegasus to feed all that stuff too. Like, you'd think I picked characters that I didn't really use before, but I've used everyone in FE8 like a bazillion times, so there wasn't much of a choice here. So I took Vanessa, I took Saleh, I took Kyle, Dusel, like just a really all-star squad, all things considered. Dosla and Null as like fun fillers. I always enjoy using Phantoms, and I always enjoy just, you know, using Dosla for fillery combat. Fun team. Plot twist, when it was FE8 time, I was like, well, I gotta hurry up, Engage is coming out soon, so I played on easy mode, and boy, that was fun and stupid. I can't wait to tell you all about that. Next up, FE9. You can see I have 2 lines of characters from FE9. Why? Why did I do that? I think a lot of these were late game picks that I didn't really want, like late draft picks, because I was planning to low man FE9 too. This game is not hard enough to warrant picking this many characters, but it just kind of ended up happening. I didn't want to use Gatry, and it was very enjoyable to use. I never used Gatry in FE9. Tanith, strong late game flyer to carry. It's so nice to have a flyer in FE9, and it only has 3 ones really, and the other ones were picked at this point. Like, at least I'm pretty sure Marcia was gone by that point, and so was Jill. Peeve got both Jills, like I said. Ileana, like, when I first played FE9, I never used Ileana, like never, and now we're at a point where I've used her twice, and it's very strange, but yeah, I used Ileana. She's very fun. Very funny too. I got a lot of Laguz in this one. I got Mordecai, Leith, and Muarim. Kuni at one point was drafting a lot of Laguz, especially from FE10, so it's like, oh, I'll just take away some of that fur from him. He's not going to like that. That will be funny. So I drafted 3 Laguz. Nephany and Seahawk, 2 characters I've never trained in FE9 that I wanted to try. I think drafts are a great opportunity to try characters you haven't tried before. Makalov is another switch character that I never really used. But I wanted to limit myself to like these characters, because characters get better as you have more bonus experience left over for them, and these are pretty XP hungry people. So I kind of regret picking up this many, but I did end up getting most of them to 20, I believe, for transfers, which transfers are another really fun feature for drafts. Getting characters in FE9 and then in FE10 so you can transfer them through, like Peeve did with Jill, that's very nice. That's one of the reasons I picked Nephany, is to be like, haha, you can't get him free. Because I think Peeve picked her for FE10 and then I picked her for FE9. Har, also another character I really like from FE9. Ever since my Ignorance run, I've really gotten a better opinion of Har in FE9. And we've been over to Laguz, and then Chironio and Renault for They existed for sure. They were characters I didn't really want because my roster was already full. Like, I didn't even have the room to deploy them most of the time, but they sure existed. FE10, my first pick was Titania. I felt bad because I got Titania killed twice at this point, I'm pretty sure. Once in my Iron Man and once on another playthrough somewhere. I want to say my Ignorance run. I don't remember if that was after or before this, but I definitely did. But fortunately I picked her here so I could keep her alive, and I'm happy to report that even though I'm not finished with FE10, I'm pretty sure Titania's going to survive. We're in 3-7. The most dangerous chapters for her are over, and I mean, this is not an Iron Man, so why would she die? I don't have much to say about Titania herself because she's as good as ever, but it was nice to not have her die. Z-Hark I picked because I wanted to try out Z-Hark carry strats in FE10, and at that point I hadn't played FE10 on Ignorance mode a whole lot yet, so I didn't know how it would work out, and I was curious to try it. Now that I've already tried it in FE10 hard mode, there's not a whole lot of new material for me to try out in FE10 normal mode for Z-Hark, and I wanted this to be in normal mode because I didn't want to stress too hard, and yeah, that's one of the reasons why I got bored with FE10 for a little bit, because I already played it so much. But, you know, Z-Hark carry strats are fun. I have another Earth support for him in Fiona from the Dawn Brigade, who I did train up, by the way, so that's why he's able to carry so hard. Nyla and T-Barn, I just wanted to have good characters to route Part 4 with, and Royals are very good for that. FE10, if you underdrafted, you can definitely end up in a bit of a bind in Part 4. So that's why I felt like this was a good game to actually focus picks on, unlike the other games where you can low man it very easily. FE10 is not like that, so I picked characters like this, characters like Tanith and Marcia. You know, they require some investment, but they do turn into Part 4 flyers eventually. I haven't been able to invest like fully into Marcia yet. I haven't been able to recruit Tanith yet, but I know they'll be pretty awesome. But yeah, I got Ileana again with some transfers, I think. Not sure. I think transfers were kind of hard to get sometimes for FE9. But Ileana, I trained her in Part 1, and then she transfers over to the Grim Mercenaries, and I still kept using her, so she's still keeping up to date. This time, she hopefully won't die the way she did in my Iron Man playthrough. Ulki, very good unit, obviously. Another Part 4 flyer in Secret. At this point, I was like, whoa, I can triangle attack, let's go. Especially because Alincia is free, so I can triangle attack twice per turn, actually. Or more, depending on how many Pegasus Knights I have. Niluchi was like a filler pick. At this point I realized that I don't have the slots for endgame for characters anymore, I think. Like if I put everyone here on my endgame roster, I'm going to be short. Sanaki is free for endgame, so I didn't care about her, but these other people I'm probably never going to deploy in endgame, because the others are just too much fun. But I did pick Niluchi as a fun filler. I did pick Bastion and Donvet. You'd think I would pick Donvet way earlier, but, you know, I've already used him for fun before, and he's not that special, right? Like, he's just Donvet. He's just a dude. So yeah, there you have it. Again, with Niluchi's, a pick like Niluchi is like, well, I can use him in Part 2 now, but you're already allowed to use people in Part 2 because you're kind of forced to. So it's not really any kind of tactical reason behind that. Shadow Dragon, not everyone's favorite game, but I do like Shadow Dragon. I just don't think it's the best farming game, but I think it's fun. And one of the reasons I think it's fun is because you get ballisticians. So I picked Jake first, and then I picked some characters that I wanted to try out. Ogma, I've been memeing on Ogma for a while because outside of his mercenary class initially, he's just not that good. When you can reclass to other classes, he kind of falls behind compared to most characters, and he just has like sword rank, which is kind of whatever. It's the same reason why Navarre is kind of mediocre. So this draft was an opportunity for me to try these characters out. Zane, I mean, he's a Manakee. Do we need any other reason? Well, also, it's just a good unit, right? Like, if you have a good unit raised up, you can have Zane copy them, and now you have two good units. Pretty good pick there. He became Sail, is one of the funniest characters to ever go, so I definitely went with him. Nagi's a Manakee. I picked her. Any reason not to? Well, if you had Goto, maybe that would be a bad pick, but at the time I didn't have Goto, so this was a good pick. This was also a good pick because it was funny. Samson, just a good axe unit filler. Maria for staff units again. Bantu is a Manakee. Do we need any other reason? He's very bad, but the great thing about bad units is in a draft playthrough you can kind of make them work, especially if you play on like hard 2 or hard 3 like I did. Lawrence is a funny filler pick that also had an FE3. I think at this point I might have been going for the beards, honestly. Or maybe they're like 20 rounds apart. I don't know. We'll have to look at the big draft again to figure that out. And then Rickard, I mean, Julian is free. I don't know if we agreed on Rickard free, but I picked him anyway because it was like late in the draft at that point. Pretty fun team. Got some insight out of it, but the real sweep was the late game. And if you follow me on Twitter at the time, you might have seen the screenshots of how I beat late game, which was it was something. I'm off Twitter now. No longer gonna feed Elon's money dump, But if you saw the tweets back then, you know what I meant. There we go. Then we have FE12, and for this one I picked Pala very early because, well, do I need a reason? It's Pala. She's very good. I didn't know what difficulty I'd be playing at the time, and I felt like if I picked Pala and Zane, I would have a lot more flexibility on what to do. I think I ended up playing hard 1 again. I just like, I kind of want to play a hard difficulty, but at the same time, hard 2 and above are so stressful, and like, I didn't want to take forever on every map. So I ended up going with hard 1 for this one. But I have Pala and Zane, and Etzel for staff utility, and then Manakete, and then Navarre and Ogma. I think I picked them as a joke, as like, now I can use them as with their transfers from Shadow Dragon. Nagi, Manakete, this time compatible with everyone else, not like FE11, because Goto doesn't actually join you in this game. Then I have one of these calves. I'm pretty sure this is Belf. Good calf filler. Bald, Athena, Ryan. There's some prologue characters. I really want to use Athena after the prologue. I didn't really make it through, unfortunately. I think I deployed her a couple times, but god, it's hard to use her when she's so bad at base there. Bantu was a real flex pick that I didn't really get to utilize as whole much, because at this point I was trying to play a little bit faster so I can beat these games before Engage came out. I didn't manage, but it came very close. But Bantu was fun to get kills with, just to flex a little bit. I mean, he became Seal as just a free good pre-promote in this game. Frey was a good unit to train. I didn't have Kane, but he's like the most similar thing here. Astrum and Samson, kind of whatever in this game. Emir, Setgar, Wolf, like, I don't even remember if I killed these guys or not. We'll have to find out in the screenshots. Shoutouts to Modi, who drafted like every Minerva, by the way. That was another fun all-around move. Then we have Awakening. I really wanted to pick few characters in Awakening because there's no game that incentivizes going Burr with 1 or 2 units that Awakening does. And I ended up picking as many characters as Modi did. We're tied for the most characters from Awakening picked. To be fair, a lot of these are child characters, which are a bit less demanding when it comes to resources. They just need to join and then maybe use a second seal and then get some XP and then they're good. But I did pick Cordelia, and that got me her daughter for free, Severa, because daughters come with their parents. Their canonical parents. I married Cordelia to Frederick, and she inherited Luna and Gilforce, so that was a really fun Severa to use. Gregor, I don't remember who I married him to. I think I did. I think I did use him a little bit at the very least. Muriel, I also don't remember who I married her with. I think we did allow people to marry undrafted characters, I think, just as like a mercy rule, kind of, if you were male and female. Picks were a bit out of balance. So I did have a Laurent, and I did have a Nosferatu to tank Laurent again, just like in my Awakening playthrough. And he's super broken, as always. Naui, it's my curse pick. I married Robin and Nagi, or not Nagi, Naui. There's so many Manakes with similar names, I swear. Really cursed, but really fun. Got a good Na out of it. I don't remember exactly what skills they all got, but I just remember all the Manakes were hella broken, hella fun to use in Awakening. One to range with good stats is quite sick. I remember Morgan had, because Morgan is free, because she comes, or he comes with Robin. God, they had Arms Drift. It's so busted. Arms Drift on the Manakes is very fun. Libra for staff utility. What's his face? Rally Strength, Funny Hero, and Virion. Just nice fillers, I guess. I don't really use Virion much. I think I didn't realize I drafted him until like way later. But yay, para bonuses, I guess. Basilio, that's his name. There we go. Then we get Fates. Fates, again, if you draft a character that's in multiple routes, you get him for all that they're available for. So a pick like Sidus was pretty high value because he appears in all routes and he's pretty good. I enjoy playing Fates again. All routes were kind of fun in a way. Rev to Mimon and the others were actually kind of fun. The one regret I have is that the team I picked, I found it hard to make creative use of him, and even Modi, who really enjoys Fates, couldn't really find like a whole lot of fun things to do with my team. I did find a couple things, but generally I used characters kind of similarly to how I already used them, which is fun, but I wanted to experiment a little bit more. So next time I play Fates, I'm definitely going to try some things I haven't tried before. I just kind of picked characters that I felt safe with, because Fates is always a bit uncharted territory for me, and the characters I didn't know, I didn't really want to pick, because I have no attachment to them. So for Sakura, though, was a new pick that I'm very happy with. Like, that's the first one I took. I stole a build that Peeved made before, Peeved Ladias, that made Sakura like a really good late game sweeper that was very fun. I want to go into detail about that. Arthur, sometimes like, depending on the routes, I either use Arthur straight up, or I raise him a bit to get Percy, or I just use him for early strength. Percy was like a luck touch butt in Revelation, but he was a pretty good wyvern, like, you know, slugger kind of character in Conquest, I recall. Silas was just good value all around. In Rev, he's more of a pre-promote kind of guy that just kind of promotes right away and does whatever he wants. But in Conquest, he's just a legit like fighter. And in Birthright, I turned him into a ninja. It was my first time using a soul ninja, and I'm never going back from not doing that. Sophie in Birthright was just a shelter bot. In Rev, I don't think I recruited her in Rev. I'm not sure. But in Conquest, she was just a good, like, almost pre-promote paladin, because I recruited her late game when she had like a bunch of good skills, and she was pretty nice. Odin Dank, I could not play without Odin Dank. I will probably never play a Fates game without Odin Dank ever again. I had him hard carry Rev, which is very difficult to do, but very satisfying. It's the only thing that makes the game fun. But in Conquest, I focus more on Ophelia. I will say the whole Vantage life and death build of Odin is quite annoyingly hard to do if you don't pre-plan a whole lot. So I don't think I'm going to do that again if I ever play Fates again. But it definitely makes for fun builds. Gunter is a good filler / para bot for all the games. Kagero really carried hard in both Rev and Birthright. Effie I had killed in Rev, but I definitely used her in Conquest for a while. Severa was a very good Wyvern Lord for me. Really blessed him in Conquest. Really got to show some screens of that. And Reyna, I said before, I don't really like Kinshi Knights as much as most people seem to do in Fates, but Reyna really surprised me in how useful she was in Rev, especially. Like, flyers, I don't know, it's just kind of flexible. I still hold to the belief that they're like way too frail to make, like, to praise them like as much as people do sometimes. But sometimes there's like a bunch of flyers on my screen, and I can just send a Kinshi Knight and kill one of them, and then kill another one with a dual strike from them, or send in another Kinshi Knight like Setsuna, who I turned into one in Rev as well. I didn't really use her on Birthright. But generally, this kind of turned around my opinion on Kinshi Knights a little bit. Nyx was a good pair-up for Odin. I think they married in Conquest, and in Rev they would have married if there wasn't enough time, but there wasn't. Izana is a good filler with Rally Magic sometimes. Flora is a good filler staff bot. We don't talk about Perry. SOV, I picked a team very similar to my Gaiden draft, which is not intentional, it just kind of happened that way. It has Saber, it has Tatiana, it has Katria. I think Claire is new to this squad, although I'm not sure about Gaiden, what I did there. But Claire is here. Faye is of course new in Echoes, so I couldn't draft her there. But it's nice to have a filler with Physic. But again, I had Saber carry combat in Celica, now with more help from Katria. And Forsyth is a character that I already knew was good when I drafted him, because I used him in the playthrough before. And this is like a character that I put in like D tier for my unit guide or Echoes tier list, and I realized later, like, hey, this guy's actually like good, like better than Lucas good. So now I use Forsyth instead, and he's hella fast and hella strong, like the best armor knight in the game probably. Fight me on this one. Yeah, and Catcher's just a good flyer. People have kind of turned around on the flyers in this game. They're not like as highly rated as they used to be, but Catcher is still really nice. And then Tatiana, you know, Warp is good, and Fortify is good, and Physic is good. Gonna have it in both routes. Pretty straightforward team. And yeah, I mean, I didn't play with this yet. I kind of made it sound like I did, but that's just like my experiences with the characters in previous playthroughs of SOV. But this team looks really solid, and I think it's going to be pretty much a crush through SOV. And Three Houses. Ugh, Three Houses. I'm playing it. It's so annoying. Like, you guys saw my soft lock video. That's from this draft. That's this draft I'm talking about. And it's like, I was going to play on Maddening. I was going to go through Golden Deer Maddening finally, because I've never done Golden Deer Maddening, but this game is so tedious to play, man. The maps suck, but then everything between the maps just wastes my time. So I ended up going down to hard mode, to hard New Game Plus, which is... Maddening is annoying hard and lame, whereas hard is just boring, easy, and lame. It doesn't change a whole lot about Three Houses. I really love Three Houses. I love my first playthrough. But oh my god, playing this game without caring about the story is such a slog. The maps are so boring, and this game just wastes my time. I also have like way too many units. The only character I'm excited to use is Anna, but I haven't recruited her yet because she's my... plan to use the Goto version of Anna, the one that joins very late. She changes her stats depending on when you recruit her, like all characters do. If they come from out of house, and Anna later she joins, the better she becomes. But I'm mostly just carrying the stuff with Baltus, and with the... Well, the great thing about Hard Mode New Game Plus is you kind of do whatever you want with the other characters. and they'll just kind of train themselves almost once you got past a certain point. So I do have my other units like kept up at least for the most part, which means I trained Lysithea, Sedith, Ignatz, Flane as more of an adjutant, Mariana's trained to a Pegasus Knight with Frozen Lance, which is something I've never done before. It's actually really fun. Aloise, I forgot to recruit Aloise. That's when I started skipping chapters, I'm pretty sure. I guess we're not using Aloise. I did train Hilda to Wyvern. I didn't really train Hanuman. Raphael was almost at War Master. I'm in like the Great Bridge of Burden chapter. Manuela has Warp, just haven't used her a whole lot. Mercedes is a dancer, and Anna has it to join. So yeah, you can tell I really don't care for 3 houses at this point. It's just, when you strip away the voice acting and the gameplay and the story itself, there's not a whole lot left to 3 houses. It's kind of just a simulator, like a slice of life simulator more than it is a Fire Emblem game. But I'm gonna finish it. I'm kind of close to it, so I might as well. That's 3 houses. I can't believe I realized mid-video that freaking Eloise was unrecruited. Why is he only there for like 1 month? It's so annoying. But yeah, that's 3 houses. So that's a quick overview of my teams. And I don't know how many games per video I'm going to discuss when I'm like doing my little picture slideshow. But you can expect some future videos about this. So thanks for listening to my TED Talk, and I'll see you guys next time.